Famously, the shortest verse in the whole Bible has two words, simply saying, Jesus wept. I always imagined that this was part of the Palm Sunday story. Actually, the verse Jesus wept comes from John chapter 11 and is very relevant to the build-up to Jesus riding in his donkey into Jerusalem, because it was at the point where his close friend Lazarus had died. Jesus had delayed departing to see him, and in the meantime he'd passed away, when he's met by the sisters Mary and Martha and sees the expression on their faces and the suggestion that maybe if he'd come sooner, maybe he could have healed Lazarus and he wouldn't have died. Jesus is filled with compassion and he weeps. He mourns the loss of his friend because he is human as well as being the Son of God, and even though he knows what he is going to do, that does not stop him feeling the emotion of the moment. You have to remember that this is only maybe a week before Jesus dies himself. He sees and he understands the emotion of losing somebody, the emotion of mourning, of not knowing what to do with yourself, of that deep compassion that comes. And all the way through this story, he's moved with compassion, it says time and time again. And others said, see how he loved Lazarus. That the tears were pain for the loss of his friend who he loved, even though he's going to raise him from the dead. And so Lazarus depicts the story of Jesus the following week. But there is a place in the Palm Sunday story that talks about Jesus weeping. It comes in Luke chapter 19, and it's after the description of Jesus riding his donkey to the point where he can see the city coming. The picture you can see now is from the top of the Mount of Olives, and you can't quite get the scale looking at these pictures of how low the valley of the Kidron Valley is, that you can look down, and then how steep the slope is up to the gate where Jesus is going to enter Jerusalem. Where the mosque is in the picture now, that was where the temple was. Between the gate and the temple was the temple courts. This gate took you straight into the heart and soul of everything that was going on in the city. And as you can see from this picture, Jesus looked over the city and he imagined what was going to happen. He'd just been rebuked by the Pharisees because people are shouting, "Blessed is the King who comes in the name of the Lord." And he's replied in that great way, saying, if I tell them to shut up, then even the stones are going to cry out. That's the emotion of this moment. And he looks over the city of Jerusalem, the city of peace, and he weeps for it, riding on his donkey, halfway through his journey into the temple courts, through the gate. Seeing the city and the bustling of the people and all that is going on makes Jesus have another moment of emotion, as deep as the one when he discovers that his friend Lazarus has died. And what he weeps for is quite strange to get your head around. It says, "If you, even you, had only known on this day what would bring peace, but now is hidden from your eyes." It's saying you don't understand what I've come to do. The huge clue is I'm riding on a donkey and you cannot see it. You think that I've come to bring war, not peace. And because of that, things physically for this city are going to end very badly. I believe that Jesus also weeps for the hearts of the people who cannot see and cannot understand. He weeps for the crowd who are shouting Hosanna that are then going to shout crucify him just a few days later. He weeps for the hearts of the teachers of the law who should have understood better, but are going to rile up the people to make sure that the Son of God dies a painful death on a cross. He weeps for their hearts. He weeps for the fact that they cannot understand what brings peace. And maybe he even weeps for what he's going to do when he gets there. And he weeps because he knows the future. This beautiful, amazing temple that he can see is going to be destroyed many years later. He's going to prophesy that during the week that leads up to his death and his resurrection. And although we understand the theology of the temple not being needed anymore because thanks to the death and resurrection of Jesus and sending the Holy Spirit, we can meet with God anywhere, and that is a beautiful gift to us, it's still a tragedy. It's still a tragedy that they don't understand. It's still a tragedy that they cannot see that he's come to bring peace, and the violence that's going to be held against him, all the cruelty, all the anguish. He weeps for their hearts because that's what he can see by taking this breathtakingly beautiful view of the city that he loves, but weeps for the people and for the future that's going to bring physical destruction, but a time when, thanks to what Jesus is going to do in the next few days, we can meet with God in spirit and in truth at any time. A quick afterthought. This is the place in Jerusalem which commemorates the place where Jesus stopped looking over the city and wept. Dominus flevit means the Lord wept. That's the name of this church. And it just reminds us of the powerful emotions of that moment, and that we should pray for the peace of Jerusalem that Jesus had come to bring.